Alpha Dog is a 2006 film that was released to the mainstream audience right at the beginning of 2007, I believe around January. And the first time I watched this film, I was actually a teen, and I had only caught really the second half of it, I would say, or maybe a little bit more. But I ended up watching the entire thing right after back then to watch the whole thing. And I remember it being really disturbing and really heartbreaking for me at that age. I think I was probably. Well, I'm having a little bit of a brain fart because in 2007 I would have already been 18, but I swear to God I remember seeing this at like 14 or 15. I am completely having a Mandela effect right now. However, I guess I watched it right when it came out in 2017. I remember being at a buddy's house and I remember this movie playing, but I swear I was like 13. Anyways, whenever it was, it really crushed me. The plot really crushed me, and it just made me really depressed by the end of the film. But that's how powerful it was. I mean, it's got a phenomenal cast too. Pretty much everybody in this film has gone on to really big things. You got Emile Hirsch, who is actually in a really good film of mine. One of my favorite films of mine that I watched recently called Freaks, and he also ended up being in some award-winning films, as well as Ben Foster, who plays the character not Zach, Jake in here, and he was in a few westerns. He won an award, I believe, for 310 to Yuma. But I also definitely recommend or recognize him from Pandorum and the fuck, what's that movie called? The Mechanic remake with Jason Statham. He was also in Hell or High Water, so another Western thrown in there. But either way, you got Amanda Seyfried, you got Olivia Wilde. Everybody in here pretty much has gone to bigger and better movies. So whether they were starting here for the first time, which I don't think any were, I'm pretty sure they've already been in stuff previously, but it's got a big cast, well-known cast. Everybody knows Justin Timberlake, of course. I remember him being in this film a lot more than he was in this viewing. This is pretty much my second full viewing, I would say, since I was since back when it came out when I was a teen. But it definitely impacted me just as much. I really enjoyed this viewing, obviously a lot more watching it from an older perspective, and I mean, it's a gut-wrenching film. It's apparently based on true events, but when films say that, I just take it with a grain of salt because it's very easy for any film to put that on its label, pretty much, just to sell more tickets or get more attention onto it. But how much of it is factual, not really sure. But getting into the plot, basically, you have these. It takes place in '99, in November of 1999, and you have this group of kids, and they're kind of young adults, I would say, and they party all the time. They want to live like the gangster lifestyle. Right at the beginning of the movie, they're at a house party and they're watching a music video by Gangstas in the Hood, and the song is called Guns and Bitches. There's this huge fight that breaks out in the house party between these two guys named Jake and Johnny. And Johnny is a drug dealer who is waiting on a huge amount of money from Jake, and Jake is always stringing him up. He's always on drugs himself, so he's always pretty much smoking up and not paying who he's supposed to pay back. So there's a lot of tension going on between those two. And throughout the film, as what starts the whole dilemma is Jake's little brother Zach eventually is kidnapped by Johnny and his crew, and he's basically held as insurance until Johnny ends up getting his money. And they just see him walking down the street. He like basically bailed from home because he was getting yelled at by his parents, and he's just walking down the street. They saw him coincidentally, and then they decided to take him into their custody, you could say. And Justin Timberlake's character is named Frankie. He's friends with Johnny and the whole crew as well. And they kind of go buddy-buddy mode with Zach, and they don't, like, hurt him or anything. So the crime that they're obviously committing is kidnapping and taking Zach against his will, but they're not necessarily, like, holding him or tying him up or anything like that. They're kind of being as civil as they can possibly be about it. However, Jake is basically unhinged. He's the type of character that's, nuts and out of his mind and always strung out on some kind of drug. And he starts to obviously threaten Johnny and is looking for Johnny. There's this crazy ass scene at a house party where he just shows up and he starts looking for Johnny and he's asking around and everybody's in his face. And he just pulls off this huge martial arts fight out of nowhere and he starts kicking ass all over the place. He starts by punching this one woman that comes after him right in the face, and I'm just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? And then he just starts, taekwondoing, martial arting, karateing everybody that comes after him, and he takes on like 8 guys, almost to the point where it's comical because it's kind of unbelievable how this guy showed no or mentioned no having any skill of martial arts, but all of a sudden he turns into a fucking warrior. And it's just funny how he's like, anybody who sees Johnny, once he's done kicking everybody's ass, tell him Jake, and he mentions his last name, but I forget his last name, is looking for him. Thank you. It was a badass and funny scene at the same time. I loved it. But throughout the film, at the bottom of the screen, it keeps mentioning witnesses. And funny enough, I wrote the witnesses down every time they would pop on screen. But they only showed it on screen for like half a second every time. And I'm like, are these witnesses even going to be important by the end of the movie? They're not. But, it builds up the film to state like these witnesses are going to be important to something, and then there's like, eventually by the end of the movie there's like 37 of them, so they jump at one point from like witness 13 to witness 30 something, and I just stopped taking the names down after that. But yeah, basically they're holding on to this kid, and then shit gets real. A lot of paranoia starts to come about from Johnny and Frankie, and they're worried about what they're going to face. They're kind of middle to upper class, so they're connected to a lot of lawyers, and Johnny's dad is played by Bruce Willis, and he is connected to a lot of lawyers himself. There's actually the actor, a really well-known actor, Harry Dean Stanton. It was good to see him in here. I saw him pop up, and then I'm like, I know that guy, I know that face, but I totally forget his name. And then when I looked him up as Harry Dean Stanton, he played in a really good film that I own as well called Lucky, one of his last films. And, he looks like he's in his 70s or something like that in this film, so he was already pushing the age, but still always a great actor who always pops up here and there, and all kinds of different styles of films. But yeah, they're being told that with all the shit that they're in, they're gonna all be looking at life, and Johnny is with all the paranoia and anxiety that he's building upon, he starts to feel like he's running out of options, and the only option that they have left is to murder Zach, played by Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace, Anton Yelchin. Which is another reason why watching this film is so heartbreaking, because as we all know, this is going to be a spoiler review, so I'm going to be dropping spoilers in this review. Zach is actually murdered at the end of the film, and that's what ended up depressing me so much when I watched this for the first time, that there's no happy ending, and the ending is just bleak as bleak can be. This kid is so sweet and so honest and youthful, and has the biggest heart that you can have. He's always been a great actor, Anton Yelchin, and he really sells that believability that he's really buddy with these guys, and he's so naive about it. And he has no clue what danger he's in through the entire film. He knows that he's being kidnapped. He knows that he's being held as insurance, but he doesn't know exactly how much danger he's in until it's too late, when they're in the desert and everything. And the bond and the trust that he forms to Frankie. There's this scene where Frankie figures out everything because of this character named Elvis, who is, I think, really best friends with Johnny, and will do pretty much anything for Johnny. Like he's basically Johnny's bitch. There's even a joke at the closer to the beginning of the film where everybody is like telling him that if Johnny were to ask him to suck his dick, that he probably would. And then Johnny jokes about it. He's like, "Come here, bitch, suck my fucking dick." And he kind of like looks at him like he almost doesn't want to say no. It's a really weird scene. But yeah, this guy is literally, by all definition of the word, Johnny's bitch, the way he acts through the film. So he's asked to go forward with shooting Zach down, and he does, and he's convinced that there's no other way but to murder Zach. But with the trust that Zach built with Frankie, played by Justin Timberlake, and just his innocent persona, like. And I was gonna mention the scene. He's watching Austin Powers on TV, which there's a lot of throwbacks to a lot of technology and things, from the late '90s, early 2000s that are in this movie, which is cool. And Frankie comes in and he's just like, "You want to go for a drive or something?" There was a scene before that too where Frankie mentioned, "Hey, if you want me to just throw you on a bus and get you the fuck out of here, I'll throw you like $50 and I'll just tell the boys you ran away or something." And Zach is like, "No, it's cool, man. I trust you guys. I'm willing to just go along and see what happens. I don't want to cause any trouble for my brother." His brother, Jake, the crazy, hot-headed guy. And right there, too. Like, he doesn't want to cause any issues for his brother, who's a drug addict, who borrows money and never pays it back, who owes a shit ton to drug dealers, who has his family in danger, who has his brother in danger. Like, this guy is... a deadbeat. He's dangerous. He has no reason to be loved, but Zach still looks up to him like, his older, wiser brother, and and then Frank again. He does it a second time. He comes in while he's watching Austin Powers, and he's like, "Yo, you want to go for a drive, man?" And he's like, "Nah, I just want to watch a movie." Man, what is wrong with Frankie? I'd be getting that kid the fuck out of there so fast. He's like, "No, you don't have a choice. You got to come with me right now, and I'm going to put you on a bus, and I'm going to tell the boys you ran away." And I understand he doesn't do that because then it's his ass on the line. Jake is going to come for him, Frankie, and probably Johnny's going to come for him too. And Frankie at that point would be a sitting duck who'd have to look over his own shoulder for the rest of his life. But, it's really heartbreaking when they finally get to the desert and, Frankie realizes his fate and he's crying and he's playing a 15-year-old kid in the movie. It's just sad. And then you got there's Olivia Wilde is in here. She plays a completely unlikable character. Not too far from her personality today. Did I say that? Oops. We got Amanda Seyfried in here, hot as hell. I think she was around 20 when she was in this film. She is absolutely gorgeous. Her eyes, her lips, her hair, her face. Absolutely gorgeous. Gets to make out with Anton Yelchin. I think Anton Yelchin was around 16 or 17 at the time of this filming. I don't know how that worked between those two, getting them to do the kissing and the sexual things with each other, having their age difference, but maybe it was the magic of Hollywood. Who knows? Or the state they're filming in. Who knows? But good for him regardless, because oh my god, Amanda Seyfried, that's all I have to say. And the whole Marco Polo game in the pool, it was pretty hot. I love Amanda Seyfried in this film too. Her character, I think her name is Julie. Everything is hot to her. She's like, "You're stolen? That's hot. Oh my god, you know Taekwondo? That's hot." She's just like horny for dick the whole time. It's hilarious. And she's gorgeous and she's cute and yeah. One of her great roles for sure. Justin Timberlake too in this film. I mean, he kills it. I think Jake's character, played by now I'm blanking on his name. Is it back here? Jake, played by Ben Foster. There you go. Yeah, Ben Foster as Jake killed it in this role. Absolutely, with his hot-headedness and just his tics, because he's a drug addict. When he gets fired from work and he's just flipping out at his boss and like, "I need this job," and just the facial expressions that he makes, and like you could see the veins pop out of his neck when he acts and stuff. He really dedicated himself. But yeah, if it wasn't for the brutal, bleak ending, I mean, it just But that's also what gives this film a lot of points. I landed on a 4 out of 5. And I'll probably land on like a 79 out of 100. Why out of 100? Because I hate decimals. Could be an 81, but I'll give it a 79. And with this viewing, I pretty much thought the film was borderline flawless right up until the last 10 minutes of the film. And then in the last 10 minutes of the film, all of a sudden, this is after the murder, all of a sudden, the film kind of just falls apart. Like it starts to lose balance almost. And it starts to get a little sloppy when they're revealing, like, they put the title of the names of the people, like the witnesses. They put this guy named Buzz, who they didn't mention through the whole film. New characters start to pop up that you never saw throughout the film, and they put them up as if they're like big parts and pieces of every situation that was going on, but we didn't get to know them at all, so they kind of come out of nowhere. And just the reveals of everybody. First of all, Jake kind of disappears mid-movie, and then his story is not mentioned anymore. Which he wasn't part of committing the crime, but it would still be nice to see where he went in the future, because they did a huge story wrap-up on Olivia, who was Zach's mom and Jake's mom. They did a huge wrap-up on Bruce Willis's character, who was Johnny's dad. A huge wrap-up on Johnny himself, how he ran away to Paraguay. And then they kind of tied everybody up, some smaller characters that you kind of had forgotten about, but then they left Jake alone, and they never mentioned him again, and I was kind of disappointed in that. And that whole scenario where Johnny was trying to run away to the States, and then they're having an interrogation with this guy with, you know, interview cameras, documentary cameras, and he's talking about how he tried to get Jake to Mexico, but he kept freaking out and wanting to turn around. And it was just random. And I don't know, the writing and the directing just got kind of sloppy just for that moment in the film, and I was like, that came out of nowhere. It's like the strings just started to get loose, kind of thing, in this film that was up to then progressing very professionally and very, you know, tight, you know. So that's the only real complaint I'd have. It's a minor one because it doesn't take away too much from the film, but I mean, it probably would be like a 4.5 if it wasn't for that. But yeah, I think 79 and 4 out of 5, 79 out of 100, because I hate decimals, and 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd is what I would land on Alpha Dog. It's definitely a high, strong recommendation, just for the cast alone. All the acting is superb. It's very realistic, and it's heart-wrenching, so don't expect anything happy out of this film. I hope everybody listening to this review has already watched it. And it's a cool one. Sharon Stone does fantastic as Olivia in this film. I liked her at the end. I think it's Sharon Stone still in, like, when she's playing a heavier set woman when she's in the hospital. If that's Olivia in, you know, prosthetics and stuff, she performed really, really well in that interview scene at the end. But like I said, everybody's great in what they're given to do, and everybody gives it their all. Nobody gives a half-assed performance in this film. So, yeah, that's Alpha Dog. It's just as heartbreaking as it was back then, back in the day, and I love this film. So that's what I got. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so check out what's on the channel and check out what's coming up. And until then, take care, have a good one, and cheers.